Hey everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tara.
Greetings, citizens, you damn dirty apes.
We are a science fiction movie podcast. We get together every week, we've watched the movie, we talk about it, we are working our way through, of course, the Planet of the Apes franchise. We did the first two already. This is us tackling number 3 in the series, which is Escape from Planet of the Apes, which is at least an apt title, yeah? I mean, I think some of the titles in this series are a bit clunky. In fact, the best ones, the new trilogy, I think, are all titled the wrong thing. But this one makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, Rise and Dawn should be flipped because
I always mix them up anyway. Like, yeah. I need a moment to think about which one came first.
Yeah. Because the Dawn happens, then the Rise happens, not the Rise, then the Dawn. But anyway.
I mean, they're both great titles. They're just, yeah, it's just hard to sort out which one came first.
Yeah.
Which is why I like numbers.
Yeah, why not just Planet of the Apes 2 and 3 and 4 or something?
Horror movies do it. Why can't sci-fi movies?
I mean, they used to do it. Now even they're scared to put a number on something. So colons.
Hollywood.
Colon here, colon there, colon everywhere.
It's too many colons. We need a proctologist.
I was actually thinking as I was saying colon a lot. I was like, well, how could I turn this into some sort of cancer joke? But yes,
cancer joke.
Yeah, colon cancer.
Cancer of the grammar.
Cancer of the grammar. I want to walk into a high school English class, like read like a paragraph of someone's essay and go, "You're a cancer of the grammar," and just walk out. But anyways, yes, we're going to talk about Escape from the Planet of the Apes. This, of course, is the one that flips the premise and brings Cornelius and Zira? What was it?
Yeah,
Zira. Yes. Brings them to present day at the time of the film, of course, 1971. And so, flips the premise because now they're in our world rather than a human being in their world. And it's kind of, it's interesting how I feel like a lot of movie franchises have kind of not done this exact same thing, but they'll do the mistake of just trying to make the sequel the same thing again. And don't get me wrong, Beneath does do some different things at the end, but for the most part, it wants to look and feel like Planet of the Apes. Mm-hmm. And then they finally go, "Oh, let's do the obvious thing and flip it." I feel like a lot of franchises do this, but they don't do it till the third one. They try and just copy the first one the second time, for whatever reason. Yeah,
but like, what other option do you have when this ending of your last movie blows up the Planet of the Apes?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying they could have just skipped that and went straight to this.
Oh, okay.
They didn't have to do the copying one. They could have just had, the ship's here on Earth, and because I mean, it's not like we saw them like prepping the ship at the end of the last movie. This all happened off camera. This is the movie starts with just the ship lying in the ocean and them.
You don't think that after the first Planet of the Apes that a sequel without Taylor would have been, I don't know, like disappointing to fans?
Fans can be idiots, and I feel like this is one of these cases where we would have been better off just going straight to that. That said, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think Beneath is that good of a movie. Obviously, you can check out our review, but I still enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love how dark the ending it was. So go check our Beneath the Planet of the Apes review. This movie actually also has a pretty dark ending. One, in fact, I'm shocked because as I have the IMDb page up as I often do, just for character names and so on and so on, and I noticed here it's got the it specifies for your own region. So in my case, it's got the UK rating, right? The rating for the film, as in our ratings are 12, 15, 18, PG, the equivalent of PG-13, R-rated, whatever. This film
it's rated G.
Yeah, this film in the UK is rated a U, which is the equivalent of a G. Which is saying that it is like
appropriate for children of all ages,
preschool friendly. I mean, I can't say it because we're not in spoilers. We're in spoiler-free territory. But something happens at the end of this movie that I would not describe as suitable. I'll be honest. I was like, I need some supervision for this one.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess kids were a lot tougher in the 70s.
Apparently. All the 12-year-old boys all had full beards and were shaving, with a straight
we're
razor.
gonna send you off to Vietnam soon, so might as well.
I can't believe it. I would have accepted PG, but I'd have still been surprised because of the ending. Also, this predates PG-13, so it wouldn't have been that anyway. But
Yeah.
so I don't know. It's fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah,
So-
that is interesting.
But it is spoiler. I will start spoiler free, of course, as I was saying, and we'll give you a warning in the middle before we go into spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
a minor spoiler: Conquest for the Planet of the Apes, in our next movie, is rated PG, so expect more violence.
wait. So the next one's going to have. Well, I'll joke what the next one could have, but you have to hear the context of what this one has for this to make any sense.
Yeah.
So the premise is said is Cornelius and Zira, along with a third ape, whose name I cannot remember.
It's like Milo, right?
Oh yes, Milo, quite right. And they show up, and it's this them that have been discovered by the army and officials, befriending some scientists. They're kind of like the human equivalents of what they were in their society, and then ultimately kind of where that goes and the fears of the time and all that. So I don't want to get too much into it because I feel like the movie does definitely split into kind of two halves, where the first half's a bit more happy-go-lucky of discovery and all the jokes and all that, and then it sort of takes a bit of a turn and then just gets really dark at the end. So
Really dark.
really dark.
It is a downward spiral of darkness.
Yes. So it's funny because I would say this is the most light-hearted one for the first half, and then it's
Funny,
probably
even. Yeah.
it's funny, yeah. It's probably the darkest one by the ending. Honestly.
Yeah, it's super dark, and it's actually pretty good. Yeah, I started saying that, and then I realized, oh, he's supposed to ask me first.
That's all right. We can shake things up. It's fine. It's fine.
I think this is, I mean, from what I remember of the next two movies, I think this is probably the best sequel, just because it has so much to say, and it is very much a reversal of the first film, which, I mean, for my money, is a masterpiece, 10 out of 10 movie. But I think it does a really good job of flipping the situations with the types of characters we're watching, but still keep it interesting, and it's still very much a reflection of us. And even the villain in the movie has a motivation that you can kind of understand, because he's very much the villain in this film is just Dr. Zaius again, but for humanity, and you kind of don't blame him since you're also human, but it's hard not to root for the apes because they're,
I have
the oppressed ones.
I have some thoughts on Dr. Haslin, or Haslane, maybe he's pronounced. I have some
Dr.
thoughts on
Otto.
that. Dr. Otto? Oh, that's his first name, yeah. Don't say Otto, because I'm just going to think of Doc Ock, like, every time I say his name. We can
I'm
have
such
that.
a nerd.
Blimey! Says the person who messaged me 10 minutes into the film, like, oh, there's a voice in this from Star Trek, the original series. See if you can spot it.
Yes. I'm not talking about Ricardo Montalban, who is in this movie. Come on!
Can shows up. I think he's got a bigger role in the next one, but yeah, he shows up later on in the film. But yes, the President was the voice of the character in the Doomsday Machine episode of Star Trek, which...
The voice. He was Commodore Decker.
All right,
Whose voice I recognize because he was always melting down in the episode.
all right. So keep your nerd accusations to yourself. Thank you very much.
Trekkies are like their own subsection of nerdom.
Yes, that the other nerds make fun of.
I guess that's true.
I mean,
But they're more respected because Trekkies tend to be like scientists and well-to-do people. Astronauts. Every astronaut's a Trekkie.
Oh yes, of course. I didn't realize Tara was working aboard the International Space Station during the week when she's not on the podcast.
I'm a very prestige level of nerd.
Yeah, right above the anime fans. All right, let's move on.
Gross.
So, and I'm making fun. I like Star Trek too, just for the record. So I wouldn't misinterpret any of that. So, yeah, I have some interesting thoughts on Hassling. I feel like you're right in what you're saying, but there's actually, if you look into it a little bit deeper, there's actually kind of a greater critique of humans and humanity a little bit. based on a speech that he makes at one point, which I want to get into as well when we start working through it. I mean, I think it's good too. I definitely the best of the original sequels, I think, at least from memory. Maybe I'll be surprised when we watch the fourth and fifth.
Yeah, maybe. It's been a while since I've watched them all, but I always remember this one being pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely the most fun. I mean, that's first most, all the stuff with the apes interacting and kind of discovering human clothes or human technology or interacting with various humans. They have kind of a celebrity sort of thing going for a little bit, and all that is pretty entertaining and, like I say, pretty lighthearted. And the darker stuff, I don't think it's all as good per se. There's some good stuff in there. There's definitely some stuff that feels a little bit just ho-hum. We're chasing, we're trying to find people and blah blah blah. It's doing sort of typical 70s stuff to the point where at one point the score, which is actually by I think Jerry Goldsmith, I think I noted in the
it is
the credits.
Doesn't sound like him to me.
It doesn't. There's a point late on, there's a sort of tense chase scene happening, and the music that's playing is so kind of like oddly upbeat 70s music.
It sounds like it sounds like a TV show score or something.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, Mannix maybe or something, maybe a Dragnet score. I don't know, it doesn't really sound appropriate for the film, but then again, the movie does take tonal shifts a lot, so maybe Goldsmith was just confused on what type of score to make.
Yeah, it's probably I think it's the most fun because of the script and because you have these characters that we grew to like and kind of just, okay, let's just do this because it's the obvious thing to do to explore. It's probably not super exciting on a direction level, I don't think. There's definitely some nice moments, but for the most part, it's kind of typical. I guess you said like TV show. I wouldn't necessarily go that far because 70s TV was definitely pretty basic, but this doesn't necessarily feel like super cinematic. The first movie had a lot more vistas, had a lot more compositions that meant like there was a lot more artistry in the filmmaking, I suppose. That's what I'm trying to say.
You had the big sets.
Yeah.
Here you just have modern day. You're automatically working with a little bit of a handicap there. I mean, they do well in like The Voyage Home, Star Trek 4, but like I don't know. It can be a little. I think it can be challenging.
What a force First of all, a little bit of a handicap.
What are you talking about? They're both like fish out of water, someone from the future in modern day.
And premise, but we're talking about like how the movies look. And you said that it's a bit of a handicap being in like present day. I'm like, oh yeah, as opposed to the other 99% of movies that are just shot like for present day. Well,
for science fiction, I think so. Like when you're coming from Planet of the Apes, the first two, which had these like huge vistas and these really cool, exciting new worlds and sets to explore, both in the above ground and below ground civilizations. And here you're just like, oh yeah, it's Burbank. Like, I've seen that.
Okay, fine, I'll accept the point. But many a fantastic looking movie has been shot in Burbank, probably.
It's true. I think Warner Brothers is there, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So so it's not like. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like a fun, solid sequel that feels like a. How do I put this? It does just feel like a sequel. It feels like it exists purely because we want to have a continuation of the story without any of the prestige or whatever the original film.
Yeah, but I think it does a good job of bringing in very like thought-provoking ideas and themes, and I think the end is still lives up to the Planet of the Apes name of like a gut punch twist ending. It's it's hard to say how many franchises can do that to you as that 3 times in a row.
I was trying to see what the director Don Taylor.
Oh yeah, he's done the Final Countdown.
Joe, I was trying to see what I knew his name from. Is the Final Countdown? Okay.
Which we've reviewed.
We have, yeah. You can go back. So it's a fairly early episode of the show, in fact. Yeah, he also did Omen 2, Damien, which I've also seen. if that's of
I've seen that one. That's the one with the kid that goes under the ice, right?
I don't remember the kills, but I remember he's like 12 years old and at boarding school or something like that. Is the age of Damien in that one? Yeah. So
I watched all those movies when I was young.
Yeah, back when you could relate to being the child of the Antichrist.
Yeah. And also, I had a crush on Sam Neill after Jurassic Park 3, so I think I watched them all because he plays older Damien in the third one.
That's true. That's such a nerdy crush.
It is.
So, Dr. Alan Grant. Wow.
Yeah. My sister wrote him a letter. Oh, I shouldn't say that. But he sent her a headshot.
Oh. Well.
Both had crushes on Alan Grant after the Jurassic Park 3. I don't know. We're a weird family.
Well, his assistant sent her a letter. I don't want to break the spirits here.
Aw, I didn't get to read the letter, but I did hold it up to the light, and I saw that she drew a dinosaur on it. It was really cute. She must have been like 10 or something, maybe even younger.
What a crush.
Sorry, Line. I don't think you listened to this, but...
That the poor girl's maybe her first crush. I mean, I don't know. But it might have been Alan Grant. That's it. That's something. That's something.
Yep.
All right. Well, I didn't realize we were going to get that juicy factoid in this episode. So, where are we? Yes, spoiler-free stuff. Performances are they're fine. Like, this is one of these weird things where it's just a really kind of fun movie, but it's not. Like, I can't really point to anything and say this is the exceptionally well done part of it. It's not like the performances are, earth-shattering, should be praised with Oscars and whatnot.
But I do think that that Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter both bring a lot to the characters to where we do sympathize and really love them. The movie is about following just the two of them, really. There is a third one, but we'll talk about that later. And I don't know, they do just such a good job of becoming characters that we are rooting for. And even like the other fish out of water stuff, they're kind of cute and they're so likable. And then they have these moments like early on where they're sort of getting in the favor of the public, of people, of Earth when they get there, and it's really hard not to like them. They're really funny and charismatic, and I think the performances are pretty good. Yeah,
no, I mean,
especially since they still have that heavy layer of mask and makeup.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is the most they get to do out of the film so far, because there were a little bit less or so in the second one. They had more to do in the first to compare to the second, but this is definitely more than the first, in the sense that they get to be the main characters. Now, it does cut away from them, of course, at times, and we do follow these other characters, but they are the characters that we're following. These are the ones that we care about, and it's a very different... It's an interesting thing to tackle in the sense that they've flipped the idea, the premise, but they didn't flip who we follow, because there may have been a temptation to follow the human scientist characters who fight, who interact with them and find them and make it more their story. And while they're sympathetic characters, they don't do that, and that's just an interesting choice to make, that even though these are apes and it's their story, we're still rooting for them in the same way that we might have been rooting for Taylor in the first movie. We were on their side because at this point we are accustomed to their world. We've seen it twice now. So when they show up and it's like, no, this is our world, we're rooting for them to prove to everyone else that they're trustworthy, that they're smart, intelligent, and all these other things.
Which is funny because, Taylor was in the same situation when he first gets to, the ape world, and he is not treated respectfully at all. He's treated like dirt.
Yeah, no.
I don't know, but and on the flip side here, with things may or may not take a turn, but
I think
when they arrive, they're treated like celebrities, and the scientists are respectful to the apes. It's very different. Like the apes were horrible, like the way they treated the humans, and then the humans, the way they treat the apes, are really nice.
They take precautions, but yeah, there's definitely a difference. And I think they can probably guess that it takes a bit of a turn. We have said there's a really dark ending like 10 times at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's an interesting sort of examination of how to approach both movies. And it's funny though, because we talked about the direction being kind of just ho-hum, and now that I know it's the same guys Fella Countdown, I kind of felt the same way about that.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. It's not bad looking necessarily, but that movie benefited, of course, from a lot of like random real footage of planes taking off and landing, so it gave it this production value, because this movie feels the cheapest, and not necessarily in a bad way, and because it's set in a city.
Well, there's only 3 ape masks, which is definitely going to make things cheaper, and also we don't have to deal with like the generic ape mask in the
No,
background.
I'm saying that's not true. The gorilla in the cage next to them early in the film looks terrible.
That is awful. And we get a chimp later who looks slightly better, but still awful.
Yes. So,
yeah, that gorilla.
That gorilla was definitely the worst looking. I mean, maybe not compared to some of the background ones from the second one that we complained about, but certainly out of one that the camera focuses on, it's definitely the worst looking one yet.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny because I know the fourth one does have a lot more apes in it. So clearly, it's weird to me that they got to cheap it out.
I imagine a cheaper budget too.
Well, you think so? But I don't know. Maybe the next one does cost more because this one does set up the fourth one. It very intentionally does so. So I wonder if they actually had an idea of where they were going, and they actually kind of budgeted between them and gave more money to the next one, because this one they knew, it's just set in like rooms and hotels and conference rooms and stuff. Like it's actually really cheap locations. We don't have to build anything. It's all typical stuff. So maybe that let them get away with a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm just checking the writer, Paul Dean.
Paul Dan, maybe.
Paul Dan. Yeah, he wrote the next one, and then it just says story by for Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I think
the Conquest he also wrote.
I think the fifth one. I don't know if I've ever even seen the fifth one, but I always got the impression that it felt like 3 and 4 always felt like it was, because 2 never felt like it was planned when 1 was done, right? It always felt this weird add-on. 3 and 4
like we just need a sequel fast.
Yeah, 3 and 4 feel like they were developed. I don't think they were shot back to back or simultaneous or anything like that, but they feel like they were kind of mapped out to 3 and 4 together.
Although I think if the franchise ended here, that there's enough there to, like the way it ends, to sort of kind of wraps back around to the first movie enough to be like, okay, that's a lot to think about, and that would be a solid like trilogy.
I could be wrong here, and it's just like they just wanted to get him back because they thought of what to do afterwards. But I feel like Ricardo Montalban's introduction in this movie feels like the reason why they have that an actor of that caliber in that role, it comes in fairly late on, is because they knew they wanted him to be a prominent character in the next movie. So it was kind of like a, hey, we want to introduce you in this one, but you're going to be like a more central character next time. I feel like that's, I mean, I could be, like I say, I could be completely wrong, and they just ask them back and say, hey, get a bigger role this time, and you'd be like, oh great, give me more money. But it feels like a setup to me, just from watching the movie.
Maybe. I did read in the trivia that a sequel wasn't announced until they made enough money from this movie, and then they told the writer, more apes please.
Oh, that's fair. I mean,
make another one.
That doesn't, of course, mean that the writer didn't.
Yeah, he might have still had things set up, and it does end in a way where you can be like, I like to see more of this, and you can see like, okay, well, he probably has a plan, just in case.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Montalban had one of those, like an early example of one of those like option deals where if we're making another one, we've got you locked in for it. But we don't know yet, because that happens all the time now. Now people sign like 5 movie contracts where, as long as they start making the second one within like 2 years of the first one coming out or whatever it may be, it varies from contract to contract, then they're like obligated to go back for it. Because they love getting them young. They love getting your Tom Holland saying, right, you're saying a 10 movie deal, right? You're locked in now for the next 10 years of your life. So, yeah, it's a fun time. It's a fun time. But not as poignant, at least for the most part, as the other films. And I think part of that is because we've already explored so much of what, at least the original franchise is going to explore, that I think the truly new stuff comes next time, in terms of the things it pokes at and questions. I mean, it sets it up in this movie a little bit, but it's not as at the forefront, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, this one has a lot of like this is definitely a PETA approved movie, right? Like there's a lot of animal rights going on here, and the ethics of experimenting on animals, which I think was something that was brought to light in the 70s, also experimentations on chimpanzees.
All of a sudden,
they sort of bring up with the whole ethics of the humans.
Oh yeah, all of a sudden when it's the humans who are being experimented on, all of a sudden we have a problem with it now.
Right. But if the chimpanzees could talk, then things are different. So anyway, like that's that's definitely more here, but it's also in the first movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But this is like humanity has to, face that truth.
Well, I think obviously, I think we clearly want to work through the nitty gritty of it. So, we'll give the spoiler warning. But before we do so, let me thank our Patreon producers for the month of August. And my little note went over that screen for some reason. Okay, so thank you to Alison M. Fordyce, Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Zammer Jammer, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, and Brett Williams. They are our Patreon producers for the month of August. That means they are $20 or above patrons. But you don't have to be a $20 patron, do they, Tara?
Why no? If you enjoy the show and want to contribute and see more stuff from us, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MalfuzzTV, and you will get bonus stuff, including bonus episodes of the Ace. So if you're wondering where your favorite B movies are that need to be reviewed, like You're the Hunter from the Future, Time Cop, Judge Dredd, Trancer Saga, please check out our Patreon page because we have a bunch of them up there. And you'll get bonus episodes of other shows like the Screams After Midnight, the horror movie podcast. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to the Ace one day early, and you'll get access to other shows a week early. So thank you. Please check it out.
Also, voting rights for $5.
Also, you can vote.
Yes, there you go. Boom.
And if you haven't done that yet, then you don't know what animated movie you're getting next month.
By the time this goes out next week, it'll already be September, so it'll be too late.
This month.
Oh, sure. Yes. So, there you go. So, you all know, presumably, if you go check out Patreon, I'll have posted the results already for this vote that's up right now. And the new one will be coming soon, so look forward to that. Yeah. Also, you mentioned the Trancer Saga there, and it's good. I'm going to address that briefly because we're looking to introduce a couple of little things to the show. One of them is giving out awards that are inspired by other movies, and the first official award that we gave out when we were doing the bonus episode this past week was an award based on Jack Death from Trancers for the slick back, sort of wet looking hair that you got a lot of in the 80s. None in this film. This is the 70s. Everything's big and frothy.
I had some issues with the villain's hair in this movie.
Is this how we're starting the spoiler section? We're starting the spoilers with the villain's hair.
Ooh. Yeah, that side part was not working for him.
All right.
It was like a child's haircut on a grown man. I hated it.
He reminded me of the main henchman in Lethal Weapon 2. If you can picture the main henchman in Lethal Weapon 2. Because the bad guy, of course, was the sort of the fat diplomat, diplomatic community.
Yes,
that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Yes. His main henchman was a sort of blonde with a side part, and he always wore like a suit. But hey,
it's been a while.
Yeah, there you go. Diplomatic. That's what they should have said in this movie. See when they were starting to like confront them, it was like that. We have diplomatic community.
It would have worked. Is that Shane Black who did Lethal Weapon 2?
He wrote Lethal Weapon. I think all of them, maybe.
Yeah.
But not directed. Richard Donner directed them.
Superman.
Yeah, Superman. Goonies. The Omen, of all things. We mentioned The Omen 2 earlier, but there you go.
Comes back around.
I know. Look at that.
All right, let's do this.
That's just solid good podcasting was what that is. You're all so lucky. You're all so lucky to be here. All right. So, yes.
All four of you who are interested in this movie.
There are dozens of them. Dozens. Okay. So the movie starts obviously with the ship in the water and the army showing up and open it and being like, because they get out and they're in the spacesuits already. Actually, you don't see they're ape shit, and then they take off the helmets and like because the general's like saluting and he's like, what?
Gentlemen, what? Yeah, I had an issue when they first came out with the space suits on. Cause like, where did they get those space suits? Like, they didn't have time to make them, and nobody wore them in the first two movies.
They're in the ship.
It pays off because it's a really great reveal.
Yes. I mean, maybe they're on the ship.
Well, also the ship in this movie is just like the front part of the ship, And then the rest of the ship that we see in the first movie, like that whole area where they had the beds and stuff.
Are you questioning how they propelled themselves from the ground?
There is no continuity here, yes. There's no ship continuity. I hate it.
I wouldn't even say this is ship continuity. This is just straight up physics is a problem here.
Yes. Maybe Sal, the other, or Milo, played by Sal, the other ape, is just so brilliant that he doesn't need any kind of propulsion.
Mm-hmm. Did they just ride the wave when the planet... I mean, we know they didn't, because they talk about it later how they saw it from space, but for the sake of trying to headcanon this, did they ride the wave of the explosion when the mega bomb went off? And then
That's how they time travel, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So...
It's Star Trek logic.
Yeah, notably I'm not speaking yet, because I was thinking that, because it's been a while since I've seen this, so I didn't remember how how it progressed. And they've got them in a cage. They're not happy because at one point one of them says, they can go to the this area with the vet or whatever, and there's a gorilla in the next cell. They'll feel right at home, and like Zira's like, how do I be next to a gorilla? And I had a lot of fun with this portion of the movie where it's what are the scientist names? I keep forgetting them. Dixon's the guy, and then Branton is the lady, and they're in, and they're doing these basically like simple intelligence tests where they've got blocks that go into any holes and simple puzzle shapes and stuff like that, and they want to like dangle a banana and all these things. And
the banana test. Lower the banana. That's like my favorite line in the movie.
I'm actually skipping a bit that I really like, because there's a moment before they come in where the soldiers are in shock and awe because they give them some orders. In fact, one of my favorite little moments, as much as I said the acting is not like super noteworthy from like a prestige point of view, one of my favorite moments of acting in the whole movie is when the three of the apes are still there and they're in this first cell before they go to the actual sort of animal place. Is one of the soldiers is like, hey, some origins, right? Here's some origins, and he gives them one, and then Cornelius takes it, and then he takes another one, and then it cuts to the reverse shot of Cornelius, and he puts his hand through the bars, and the way he's looking at the soldier like, give me another effing orange right now.
I know, like he just like stares him down like,
yeah,
another.
Yeah, there's three of us, but then of course they whip out some plate. Why this cell has plates and knives and forks all in it when
it's adorable. Presumably
it's supposed to be a cell for people. Why would you have knives in a jail cell when you have a dangerous person in there who might want to try and escape? I don't know. This doesn't add up. Because why would they put them in there for the apes? They're not expecting them to use them. They're shocked when they start using the knife and fork.
They might. I mean, they're apes. They might still use them as tools to murder each other. Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So there's some things that don't add up. That said, though, the look of on the face is great. Yeah. Just the look in Cornelius' face is he's like, give me the other orange. Give me them right now.
Yeah.
Come on. Give me the orange. I love Zira basically just like acing the test and just sort of looking like, is that all you got?
Lower the banana.
And she builds a little stairway out the blocks and she just sits there and doesn't take it. And eventually she just gets... And what I like about this is her getting frustrated and just speaking at this point in the movie. Is that it really fits in with a character from the previous two where it doesn't feel forced to make her just sort of give up and do it. It feels like, no, this fits a character where she got really frustrated and speak her mind. Because there was a lot of stuff in the first movie with Cornelius being like, oh, women, stop getting out of trouble, shut your mouth. Like,
yeah, they were like really sexist. It wasn't Roddy McDowall who played him in that. So it's kind of funny that he came back for this movie.
Yeah. Oh, you're right, that was the second one where all the sexist, stop talking wife stuff was. So, like, why won't she take the banana? Because she can get to it now, but she's not taking it. And she's like, because I loathe banana.
Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty apes. That's their moment.
That's their moment, yeah. And then they're talking to the scientists, and it's like there's this big, like, assembly and, like, this council all formed to, like, do an inquiry.
And something else happens to the other ape, or red shirt ape.
Oh, you're right. The red shirt ape. Yes. The gorilla from the other cage grabs him and kills him. So, which actually, to be honest, it's kind of weird how the scene after this, when the two scientists go into the cage to talk to them and ask questions, like ask their names and sort of start to bond. It's kind of weird where Zira and Cornelius are both like, yeah, we like you. You both seem fine. And I'm like,
Your friend just died.
Yeah, your friend literally just got murdered because of where they put you. It's a bit of a leap to already be okay with this. So I guess maybe that's a critique of the movie, is that it maybe rushes through some of the pacing, the beats, because it wants to get to the next bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's a fair complaint.
I have something. I looked up the actor because I came across some information on him that I thought was really interesting. So his name is Sal Mineo, who played Milo, the other ape. Okay. And he apparently he like really did not do well with the makeup. So like Kim Hunter and Roddy McDowall like really had to help him throughout the whole process of it, because I guess he just got way more claustrophobic than he was expecting or something. And so that's why his character got killed off. I think he was meant to be in it a lot more, but they killed his character off because he just couldn't do the acting. He couldn't do the makeup, which is interesting. But then when I was looking up the actor, he did this movie and one other movie and a few TV shows, like TV episodes, and then decided to do a stage show. And while they were doing rehearsal, before like the big opening night, he like was walking home and was just murdered by a stranger.
Do you know, I was about to jump in when you were finished with the story that he died super young, but you were getting there because it was apparently even more interest is maybe a bit of a dark way of putting it, but I was curious because he died in 1976 at the age of 37. So
yeah, he was just murdered by some stranger. Like somebody was prosecuted for it, but I don't know. It was just one of those crazy like Hollywood stories. Like, oh damn! Like he never really had a chance to. I don't know, I mean, he was in some great films. He's in Rebel Without a Cause, Giant, Exodus, which I don't know what that is, but I don't know. What a crazy story. Poor guy. Yeah. Murdered. Just while walking home from rehearsal for a play before his big opening night.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the story of Milo.
Right, thanks for bringing us all down. We can then
That's going to happen eventually.
With the cheery part of the movie. We have this big hearing, and they kind of warn them, like, maybe don't mention this or that, but otherwise just be yourself. You know, start with simple answers, because there'll be simple questions. And no one there's expecting them to actually talk, because when Dixon stands up and says, hey, look, they can speak. They can respond to your questions. They basically like think it's a trick at first, you know, because they say, oh, what's the female's name, and they keep referring to him as the female and the male. They never really sort of treat them with any sort of kinder, you know, words. And so Zira stands up and says, you know, Zira, my name is Zira, and it's like, oh, it's a trick, oh, what is this, blah blah. And it says, can you say your name again? Zira. And then they give her another word to say, and she repeats the word. It's like, oh, it's just like a parrot, you know, it's all it is. And then it's really, oh man, they're really just not buying this, and you're kind of waiting for her to like say something else. And they ask Cornelius to stand up and say something.
Well, they ask if he can talk, and he goes, only when she lets me. And then that gets a big reaction. It
gets a big laugh. The crowd are all into it. They ask some more questions. Zira almost slips up and admits that she was dissecting humans, and says, oh no, I studied humans instead. My favourite part of this whole scene, though, and maybe it's because I'm an atheist, but my favourite part of all this
I know exactly what part, because it made me laugh.
is Cornelius mentions that Zira is his wife, and when he says this, he says, you know, my bride.
Wedded.
Or wedded, yeah, was it? You know, we were wedded. And on the panel, there's a priest, and the priest is like, what?
Wedded? Under God?
and then Cornelius goes a few steps further and says, well, you know, in our sacred scrolls, you know, it says, you know, God made ape in his own image. And the priest is like, what? he's just over there just losing his shit. Is fantastic. Yeah. So I'm down for that. But they basically get a lot of cheers and stuff. They ask to be unshackled, and it's kind of the public opinion thing where the crowd all start clapping and cheering for them. So they've kind of won. They've won the favor of the public. But of course, this is what we're also introduced to. You know, Haslin, the evil scientist, who is very suspicious, and he wants to prove like what's going on. But honestly, my biggest like weird what the hell kind of moment for this whole movie is during this hearing, they're asked about where they come from, and they do admit that they're from the future, and they say that this is Earth that was destroyed by man, apes rose up, blah blah blah, and I think Kesslin says something in the scene along these lines as well, but it's afterwards when he's on like a TV show, he's been interviewed like in the next couple of scenes, and the interviewers explain, okay, they said this, they said that, and you believe they're from the future, and Haslin's dialogue is, well, absolutely, it's the only thing that makes sense. Like, what? How is that the part that makes sense? How is that the part you just believe willy-nilly? Like, you don't think there's just maybe like a secluded place on Earth where some apes learn to be smart? Is that not more plausible than they came from the future after a nuclear
from like
holocaust?
another planet, just like Taylor thought he was on another planet?
Yeah. But no, like he's just, for some reason, he is immediately convinced, to the point where when they actually say it, he has this, I'm sure it cuts to him and he's kind of like, oh, of course. What do you mean, of course? How did your mind jump to time travel?
Yeah, I don't know. The part the part for me where I get all like, what? Like that happens much later in the movie. Well, not that much later, I guess, when Cornelius is talking about the history of apes according to like the scrolls and stuff, and it's all very different.
We're going to talk about that. Don't you worry, that stuck out to me. But so he's sort of entering, and kind of the plot here, outside of the fun stuff, is basically that he is trying to catch out like them in a lie, because they claim they never met Taylor or anything like that, because they think that would look bad, and the scientists kind of agree that that might have had a bit of a negative reaction, that some of them died and you even like operated and experimented on them. Like that won't go down too well. Yeah. So we have him and that happens later because he gets her drunk with champagne, or was it grape juice plus?
Grape juice plus. Yes. Which is forever what I will call wine.
Which is, I mean, this movie's actually quite anti-drinking, because every time she has it, she basically gets them into more trouble.
Yeah, and she gets immediately drunk.
Yes. So, I mean, that's good fun. So he records her admitting to a bunch of stuff that's paints him in a bad light. But all the stuff before that, though, is she's pregnant for a start, right? That's a big reveal. She faints in the museum. She's seen some dinosaurs and then sees a big gorilla and faints. But other than that, we get a montage of them both trying on clothes, being at a party in their hotel room, and
I mean, this is all really fun, and we get to see Zira try on like people clothes, and she's modeling them like she looks good, but I mean she looks silly. Anyway, but like it's really fun. It's all like they're like giving into their celebrity, and but I do really like the scene where she is in the Natural History Museum, and she sees the ape-like stuffed creature and then faints, because it's a little bit of a parallel to when Taylor sees his astronaut friend in their like menagerie that they have set up for humans, and also like she's been in this world where she's accepted and people love her, and they've been like, she's been on vacation seemingly, and then all of a sudden she has that realization like, oh yeah, they still do monstrous things to animals here on this world.
I wonder if it would have been a wise idea to like maybe put in a little, not a subplot per se, but like actually tackle the idea of maybe her feeling guilty of how they treated the humans. Yeah. I mean, obviously she was very much...
I don't feel it like in this at all.
No. I mean, obviously she did, like, she went to bat. Once she realized Taylor was intelligent, she was kind of on his side. She did a lot to help him, but I do think it'd be interesting for her to maybe reconsider everything she's ever done. Where I don't really feel that, she's hesitant to tell them what she's done to humans in the past because she thinks it's dangerous for her. Right, but it doesn't
seem like there's any regret at all in the way she says it. It's all very much like, I'm a scientist. That's what scientists do.
Yeah, and then Dixon's like, yeah, well, we do that to animals, and no one really makes a fuss. I mean, people do, obviously, but yeah, that's like, it's still like kind of a good message, like when you have somebody who's just so very much like the scientists are here, like, well, no, they're not, they're primitive, so we can do what we want to them. We have like autonomy over them, when really we should be stewards of nature and
let them have their own autonomy. That's what it means. So it is kind of interesting that she doesn't really have any remorse for it when we're looking at it from that point of view. But I sort of also wish that there was something there when I was watching it, just because I like Zira and I want her to have that realization.
It would have added, I think, more. I think it would have went from being just kind of a fun. I mean, okay, yes, it goes dark at the end in the last sort of third of it, but it would have turned it from a slightly fun hijinksy kind of exploration sequel into something with a bit more nuance, a bit more like if they were actually sort of saying, "Hey, we've done some awful things and we feel guilty about it." It would add a lot of weight to when they're being hunted later on, that they are regretful and they are mournful and they want to be better and they want to have a chance of. So I think it would have added a lot more subtext to the film, and it has some because it's a Planet of the Apes movie, but it's definitely, it feels like it's almost like just sort of coasting on the subtext that's been there since the first one, rather than actually adding a whole lot of its own. So I think that's maybe where it's a misstep, and where it never really becomes a great movie because of that. It's a fun sequel. It's nice to watch and it's whatever. But so that's part of the movie. We have all this fun stuff and there's some jokes. There's one weird one actually that I feel like there's a couple of points where Zira, at one point she like reacts to a TV, like the newscaster says goodbye and she says goodbye to it, and they'll kind of chuckle, and that's kind of funny. There's one that I thought was actually kind of like weird, where this reporter starts asking about pets or something. It's like, "Oh, do you think I'm a pet?" It's like, "Well, yes, essentially." And there's like an awkward moment, and then Zira just starts laughing, and they all start laughing together, like, "Oh, we all get the joke." I'm like, "No, she called you a pet." She just said she thinks you're equal to a someone's dog. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, she still does look down on humans.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're also from the future, and they've seen like what humans become, so it would take a bit more for her to see them as something more. Well, no, it's
the journalist who says it to her.
Well, yeah, sure, but that's Zira's response is, "Yeah, I see you as." Oh, you're right. It is. I am mixing it up.
Yeah, you're flipping it because it's hard. It's the human that says, "Yeah, I do see you as a pet," and it is a pause, and then they'll laugh.
Which is also odd because we don't really have chimpanzees as pets.
No. We'll talk about the possibility of that in a minute. So Heslin, gets her drunk and has her talking about Taylor, the Earth exploding, all the rest of it. And and this is the thing, he makes a speech here, right? And on the one hand, on the surface level, you could say, okay, he's a bit more sympathetic, even though he's kind of villainous about it, because he essentially compares it. He doesn't call it climate change, obviously. He talks about pollution, and he talks about overpopulation and things like that. He says, "Yeah, well, we'll wait until." We'll deal with it later. We'll deal with this later. We'll do that later. We have to do something now. This is something we know for a fact that in X number of years, the human race is going to be wiped out essentially and replaced with intelligent apes. We can do something about this. Let's try and change the course of history. He talks about lanes and like go over a new lane, blah blah.
And he's talking to the president about it, and the president brings up like, yeah, like we would be. We supported the like assassination or hunt down of Hitler, but would we have done it if he was a baby or just his ancestors? Like, this is the kind of the equivalent thing. Like, sure, maybe it would be better for humanity overall, but how can you kill somebody who's innocent now?
And that's a time travel question, which I don't think the movie really gets into outside of the president saying that one time. But I think what's interesting about this though is all the stuff he's saying about pollution and overpopulation, and he's saying, hey, we have to do something about some of these issues. We can't just wait for them all to be fixed later. It makes you a little sympathetic. And I think especially in a modern light where we talk even more about a lot of these things now, and it's like, okay, all right, so he's kind of like someone who's saying this is something we can avoid, we should do something to stop it, even though it feels a bit cruel in the here and now. But there's actually if there's any, I don't even think this is intentional subtext necessarily, but there is kind of a darker element to this where it's funny how when the problem can be solved with violence and with killing someone, that all of a sudden it's something that someone high up feels they can solve, right? Because you can't solve climate change with going and shooting a group of people. You can't solve overpopulation. I mean, I suppose technically, in a cruel way, you could, but you can solve these things with something as simple as, but because this is something as simple as, well, I can justify taking a life because it's under for a good cause. For some reason, human beings. So I think that's almost a dark commentary of human nature. Of like, oh, now it's about villainizing a person or a type of person. we can get on board with this. We can make this work because our minds work this way. And there's kind of a dark something. I don't even know if it's intentional, but it's definitely something I was thinking about as he was making this speech.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I think this is one of my favorite scenes of the movie is when he's talking to the president. And it's just very, like, I think the points that they bring up are points that we would have wanted in other time travel films from this director. Sorry, Don Taylor.
I didn't think about that. You're right. Well,
at least they're doing it here, you know, and I really enjoyed this scene a lot because it is very thought-provoking, and it is like there is a little bit of sympathy because his motivation is to save Earth and to save the human race, and he has enough from Zira to know that something happens in the future that ends humanity forever. Like, we have a chance to stop this, so why wouldn't we take it? And sure, his chance is, you know, cruel and violent to innocent beings, but like, you can't help but go, like, I understand why he's paranoid and why he's filled with fear about this.
And we should clarify, at this point in the movie, all he's suggesting is basically forcing an abortion of the child. The idea being that Zira and Cornelius can live out their lives and die and whatever. It's not going to affect anything really, but they can't have a kid. They can't have a baby chimp who's going to then possibly spread the intelligent chimp gene around.
Yes.
That's what he doesn't want. There is actually, I mean, this fictional president is actually a very morally sound one, because even later on when they're on the run, and they've done something, you know, at least it looks questionable. I mean, it is questionable, but I mean, I have
questions about that scene anyway.
Yeah, but we'll get to it. But there's a point where he says to Heslin, who is getting to kind of like run the operation of all the army and police looking for them. He says, like, hey, they've not actually been tried of a crime. We do not shoot down, you know, people who we suspect of guilty of something. And I'm like, you know what? Even the president today doesn't have that moral sound compass. So, like, I'm like, okay, you're getting points, fictional president.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree.
I'm sorry, did I stumble you with that very serious bit of political talk there for a second?
I don't want to get political.
No, do I? But I couldn't help but when he said that and said, no, we don't do this. I was like, yeah, all right.
He's still like, yeah, it's odd given today's politics that the president of America is the moral high ground in this scene versus the guy who just wants to stop, I guess we can call him xenophobic because he's afraid of another civilization taking over, or the other taking over. Yeah. And his way of life ending. But I never thought about it in that context, but you're right to think about it that way. As obviously the difference here is that he literally has evidence that this is going to happen rather than just wildly speculating that the apes are going to take over someday. Yeah, it's true, but that's also the whole point of the first movie of the Planet of the Apes is that man had their chance and they blew themselves up. You know, we caused this ourselves.
Oh, say it properly. Man had their chance and we blew it. Come on.
We blew it up. You maniacs.
Humanity blew itself, okay?
Yep, we're all Tobias.
Oh dear, I made an innocent pun then turned it into an Arrested Development not so innocent pun, and I am proud of everything that happened in the last 30 seconds. Right, so yeah, I guess obviously from here they're taken into custody and they're more sort of under lockdown and they're questioned by, and obviously we have Dixon and Bratton trying to help them as best they can, but they're taken into questioning. They question them together, and this is where we get a lot of the new stuff about the sacred scrolls. And I have to, at the very least, I have to assume, and it still doesn't add up completely for me. I have to at least assume these sacred scrolls that Cornelius says he has access to or had access to were after the first movie, because if he had read any of this, any of it, a single word of it, when he was with Zira and with Taylor in the first movie, and he was pretending like, oh, we don't know, about this human past. He's a complete dickhead.
Right.
I mean, honestly, even the idea that Zeus, like even the idea that Dr. Zeus knew in this detail how like ape civilization came to be doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like he knew about all this. But they asked Cornelius to explain how apes rose up, and he tells them, oh, there was a plague that wiped out all the cats and dogs, so people took chimps in as pets, and they got smarter, and they realized they were slaves, so they rebelled. And I'm like, how did you know? Like, none of this was remotely talked about or hinted at in the previous two films.
Like in this, no, in the first film, it was just humans were always primitive, and or apes evolved from man, right? Like, and even at the end of it, when we get the reveal from Dr. Zaius, it's man did have like intelligence before, but they used it to destroy themselves, and which is why we can't let them evolve again to that level of intelligence, otherwise they'll destroy us too. Like that was the whole point. It wasn't that there was man and ape didn't have this path together.
Yeah, no,
like they're explaining in this one, and it's very it's very strange. It doesn't really add up very, very well, and I don't really understand the point of it so much. Like, why does Cornelius have to have this history?
Yeah, especially since this is literally the fourth movie he's describing here for the most part. Like, they didn't need to actually tell us this. What gets me, though, is that what we said there, the main point that I think contradicts it all is that literally, like, they're all, like, none of them suspect that humans were ever intelligent, right? And maybe Zaius kind of did, but it's one thing not to hint at anything, right? But it's another where I just don't buy that Zaius knew this. And Zaius is the one who had the sacred scrolls. Yeah,
Zaius was more of like a religious thing. It was just like, these scrolls have been passed down from orangutan to orangutan, and they have been, the keepers of the secret of the of humans and whatever. But it's more of just a warning. Like, it's not even all of this. It's not that, humans used to have cats and dogs and raised animals as pets and domesticated them, and then there was an uprising. But it was more just like, humans are dangerous, avoid at all costs, and make sure they don't become dangerous again, keep them in check.
Yeah, it completely changes the context of it all. It completely changes the tone of it all, and I just don't buy that any of the ape characters specifically knew about any of this in the last two movies. So that feels like a giant retcon that's just been put in to set up the next movie.
And I really don't think it's necessary at all.
It's not, because the next movie will function the exact same with or without this speech.
Because, well, also, like, the whole point of man, blowing themselves up is that, regardless if they did it because they raised animals as pets or because of nuclear war, like, it doesn't really make a difference. Like, it's still man's fault either way. Why does it have to be so specific about cats and dogs and apes? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they could have... Obviously, we could have learned about all this in the next one. It's so funny, because we were talking about the new ones when we get to them, is that obviously there's no nukes in that version, and it's very different. It's not a parable for, the Cold War and us ruining everything. Although it is a virus, funnily enough, which, in 2020 feels very... I know. I saw a joke online earlier. It was a guy walks into a bar and says, I'll have a Corona and 2 hurricanes, and the bartender says, that'll be 2020, please. I do hope everyone in their the hurricane right now in Texas is safe. Like, I don't want to make light of the hurricane, but that made me laugh. Okay, it was 2020's been a gauntlet of a year. We need some good news, damn it.
Yep.
Will you clack it away? What are you typing?
I don't know if I knew there was a hurricane. Oh yeah, Hurricane Laura. I've been so checked out of the news. It's an election year. I don't need to pay attention. I've suffered enough from the last one. I'll still vote.
Obviously, yes. Please do vote sensibly.
Yes.
It's almost your sister's name, which would have been really funny to bring her back into the conversation here. It's almost your sister's name.
Almost.
Dear. All right. So where are we? All right. So that's the record. But they take out Cornelius. They make Dixon inject Zira with a sedative. Well, not a sedative. It's a...
Yeah, it's like a true serum.
Yeah, but, he describes it as
sodium pentanol or something.
Yeah, he describes it as the same effects as grape juice plus. Yes. I don't know why they don't just call it. I mean, it's funny that she just keeps calling it grape juice plus. Like, it is amusing, but at the same time, like, why did they think wine's not a word they can tell her?
I don't know.
I don't know. She's learning other words. Why not wine?
Maybe she doesn't want to know because she's pregnant, and that could lead to complications. Although, I mean, she's like about to give birth, so probably not. I think you're allowed to drink a little bit of wine when you're late stage pregnancy, but
That's, I never even thought of it. That's a good point. She drinks wine like 3 times in the movie, and she's pregnant the whole time.
yeah. But I think that's it's the 70s, so things were looser. But also, I think that's okay. Late stage, like, I don't think it's okay to get drunk, but like, I think a little bit of wine is all right. I don't know. I had a friend who went through 2 pregnancies, and I was very much there for her for every stage, and she told me one time she did have permission, but she wasn't going to test it.
Yeah.
Permission from her doctor.
Okay, of course, not just Jim from the corner. Like,
No.
he was standing next to the bus stop and had a chat. He said, well, it's okay if you have a bit of wine in the last trimester. Right. It's fine. It's like, trust Jim, yes. Yes. So from here, they record her basically admitting all the bad stuff, all the stuff that sounds bad. And the Congress, and do you know what I appreciated and I'd forgotten about this movie, is that the characters in this scene do actually argue a lot of things about, like, even though they ultimately decide that they can't have the kid out of precautions, they do actually, some of them do say things that are kind of more positive, like, well, they did this, I mean, they did all this to humans, because there's kind of this worry when she's being questioned and they've got the light in her face and all that as soon as she says that she was, dissecting humans and like lobotomies and all that immediately it's like, oh wait, she's been doing this. And when they bring it up in the hearing, like, several of these people on this board are like, well, yeah, but it's not really that different to what we do to apes now, so we can't really, crucify them for that. It's like they're here, that they've been respectful, that they've, all these things. So there's actually some solid arguments, and they're not just like, not just all villains. Well, that proves it. All right, stamp it, right? Firing squad. They're like, okay, but we're going to approve that the child shouldn't be born because at this point, it seems like this is a future we could maybe avoid. So let's do it. Yeah. And it's not fair to obviously Curioson's era, but they've made this choice. But it just so happens there's a nice cut here. Actually, there's a nice little edit because when he hits the what do you call the thing that the judge hits?
The gavel.
The gavel. Thank you. When the gavel hits, it cuts to Achilles' fist punching the table. Not because of this news. He doesn't know about this shit. Just about his wife being injected with something. Right,
and he was forced to leave the room. He couldn't be there.
Yeah, and there's a running thing throughout the movie where he really doesn't like being called a monkey. Like, whenever anyone says monkey, he gets really upset.
Racist.
And he asks them repeatedly not to do it. So when this woman comes in, or this guy comes in, sorry, to give them their dinner or lunch or whatever it is, he says something like, oh, you got to keep well fed for that little monkey in there. And Cornelius flips his shit, throws the food out of his hand and throws him against the wall. Not meaning to cause him any great pain, but he's just trying to escape. He wants to get out of there with her, and they go kind of on the run, not knowing what they've done and thinking that the kid's okay. But we see, of course, after the fact, that the guy's bleeding from the back of the head, and this probably killed him.
Yeah, there's glass everywhere. It seems like pretty extreme, like, because when you watch the scene, it looks like he just flipped the tray of food and pushed them into the wall and maybe like knocked him out. But like, yeah, he's got a major head wound, and they do say later that he actually died.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily compute for me, and that's just a safety thing, I guess, why they can't obviously hit his head that hard. But I feel like I've hit my head harder than this and not died.
It seems like, obviously. Yeah, it's a major wound. I mean, he is a chimpanzee. They are stronger than humans.
True.
Maybe there was just a lot more excessive force than he realized, or that we can tell from the way the movie's shot or the scene is shot. But it is kind of a, okay, like, I guess we have to buy it for the sake of the film, but they really didn't do a good job convincing me that's what I saw was what happened.
They basically decide to go back because they realize this is stupid. They're probably going to punish us, but we'll accept that so we can continue living with our child. But Cornelius overhears like the guard talking to Dixon, or actually I think it's just Branton on her own.
Yeah,
as she's trying to go into the base to like find out what's happening. And it becomes this movie where the two of them like meet up with them and sort of help them like hide and go on the run. And this is where we get Ricardo Montalban's character, where he runs a circus. And it's like, oh, they'll blend in here. They can be in, you know, one of the cages because there's a lot of chimps here, and they even give birth here. I mean, I don't know if this is just some dramatic license because they want to do it for the story, but do chimps not show when they're pregnant like heavily? Because if she's giving birth now, then she must be.
I don't know. She's always wearing like some type of dress.
Yeah, I guess. She never struck me as looking pregnant. I always assumed earlier in the film.
But she was pregnant in the second movie. They do talk about having, like, she's having a kid.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, they evacuated, like, I mean, how much time does the second movie span? Like a few days?
Yeah.
And then they evacuate and they land on Earth here, and, you know.
I guess this whole franchise so far has only been the course of like a week.
So, but you know, they're on the run, and we keep cutting back to Helson as he's like sending men after borders looking for plays. And it's like the other guy in the background just says, "Well, where do apes go? Well, maybe to other apes." And it gives us, oh, check zoos, circuses, check everything that, you know, could be concealing a chimpanzee. And they have to leave because the whole plan was that Ricardo Montalban, you know, would take them to Florida because the circus goes there.
Armando.
If I remembered what his name was in the Naked Gun, I'd use that as well occasionally.
Yeah. That's a good movie.
I always just remember the love interest, Priscilla Presley, like handing down like a beaver at one point in that scene.
I just had it stuffed. The solid comedy.
Oh, those first two are great. The third one, I don't think holds up.
Vincent Ludwig.
Ludwig, yes, I remember the name Ludwig. They say it a lot.
Yeah, he had the fish.
Yes. That Leslie Nielsen kills by accident.
Spoiler. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so we're at the circus. There's another chimpanzee there who's also a mother.
Which is important because Zira, of course, like practices being a mom. It's like, hey, mama, and Curiosity's like, this is a primitive ape. The chimp's not going to say anything. And she's like, I know, I'm just practicing.
Taylor did the same thing to Nova.
True. That's very true. Yeah, nice parallel. So they have to go on the run, and Dixon basically says, hey, I used to play in this like ship graveyard. You can go and hide in an abandoned ship. You have to go from here, and you know,
if I had that when I was a kid, I would have played there too. It's awesome.
It gets super dark though, because he's like, hey, like if they take us in, they're probably going to kill us because we accidentally killed that guy. So can you give us a way of killing ourselves if it should come to that? And even that's like super, like, are you even just a character asking that in a movie? For me, that's a PG at least now. It has to be a PG.
But then the doctor was just like, I thought maybe you would ask, so I brought this just in case. And he gives him a gun. You're like, why would you think he would ask that?
I was like, this is at least a PG. That question alone, right? Don't get me wrong. I think there's something at the end that makes it R-rated, but at least at this point, this is a PG at least.
Yeah, this is not on par with like, I don't know, Cinderella.
Teletubbies, and what else is a G-rated thing?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
So they go find the ship graveyard. Zira drops like one of her bags though, and it gets discovered. So this like gives Helson a sort of a tracking point to look, because they're getting very frustrated that they can't find them at this point. I do think Zira is smarter than some of the decisions she makes in this film. Fair. I mean, she was so bright in the first film, and she like smarter than Cornelius and everybody else. But like, they do play with that. Like they play with her being a bit pompous with like the tests and stuff early on. But you're right. There's multiple times where she almost says she dissects humans when she clearly knows she shouldn't say that. It feels like she has to make that mistake so the characters, the humans later, can like try and like get her to expand on it. Dropping the bag.
It doesn't seem very true to her character, but yeah, it's still a fun movie, and yeah, the plot needs to advance.
There's some contrivances.
She was the one doing the dissecting, but that's all right.
Yeah, there's some contrivances. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, just to get it where it wants to go. And that's where a script could be tighter. The script could make it all work a little bit better. But the fact that they wrote out a character well, so we're shooting because the actor couldn't deal with the makeup, maybe says that it wasn't maybe the most smoothest sailing of. Because maybe that's why these mistakes are in here. Maybe the original reason that they found all this information had more to do with the Milo character, but because they wrote him out, they had to quickly go, oh shit, we'll have her say something by accident. Like that might have been.
Yeah, you think? I mean, he's under makeup. You think you can just swap him out with another guy with the same height?
And just double the original footage with the new actor, so it's the same voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, why didn't they think of that? I've solved it.
Hollywood.
I've solved
got the
it.
answers.
Just get a stunt double to do all the performance, and then have whatever actor you want do the voice and dubbing. There you go. Done. So they're hanging out the ship, and I mean, as much as I said that the direction is not particularly notable in this, I do enjoy the sequence, the sort of game of cat and mouse where Heslin sees Cornelius through the binoculars, and he comes in, he's got a gun, and he's sort of stalking the ship, and they're just missing each other and kind of thing. And he ends up finding Zira and saying, you know, give me the baby, I'll shoot. I've got authority to take the baby. And meanwhile, the police are kind of starting to like pile up in the pier.
Yeah. And we see the two scientists show up, and we get that like hopeful music again comes in, like, oh, the rescuers are here. Things are gonna go right now.
Yes. And so obviously Zira being shot down is super dark, but that's not the thing that makes this. I mean, I would argue it maybe stretches it a little bit to PG-13, but maybe it's not super violent. It's dark because she's holding a baby chimp. The thing that makes this ultra dark is what Heslin does next. Like, he's just shot Zira, she's dropped the baby chimp, and Heslin just
he shot her in the back while she was running away.
So the baby chimp's on the floor. I'm gonna tell you, don't see it because it's all bundled up in, like, you know, blankets and whatnot, and he just shoots into the pile of blankets like twice.
5 times, yeah.
And I'm like, why is this not R-rated? That was dark as shit. And this is the thing. In the moment, I goes, okay, that was really dark, but I'm expecting it to turn out that there wasn't a chimp in there. However, the twist that happens, because there is a twist there, where Zira swapped her chimp with the chimp that was in the cage with its mother, right? So she swapped the chimps, so her child is alive. However, we did see them with a real chimp on this journey. So the chimp that she swapped, she was still holding that chimp.
Yep.
This was a chimp that was seemingly
he just
executed.
Cruelly murdered a baby animal. Yeah. He shot him like 4 times. Like, it was there is like a level of cruelty there that is like, it's vicious. It's like,
any sympathetic sort of notions you had with them, because okay, he really believes that the human race is going to be wiped out, he's trying to save it, you can kind of understand his line of thinking to a point. When he fires, I mean, okay, and maybe he's so agitated thinking it won't happen that he wants to take his chance and just do it right now, so he fires once. But when he fires multiple more times, it's just like, okay, dude, you got issues, right? You got something going on in there.
Yeah. And then so we see Zira get shot, we see the baby get shot multiple times, and luckily Cornelius gets a shot off on Dr. Otto.
Yeah, we
get a really great squib because it hits the camera even too. Loved it.
Yeah, as he's falling. Yeah, so we get the cathartic villain kill, but he does fire his gun on the way down, and that hits.
Well, the helicopters get.
Oh, the helicopters get. Sorry, they get Cornelius. Sorry.
Yeah, the snipers get Cornelius, and we think, oh, poor Cornelius
and he
is
falls,
gone. At least he'll die on his feet.
He falls over and lands in the lower deck, which is where Zira is. Zira
hits his head on the way down.
Yeah, it's obviously a dummy, but it looks quite violent. And then Zira crawls over, because she's still alive, crawls over to the dead baby chimp, and again, it's in blankets, you don't really see the body, but and then rolls it off the side of the ship into the water, which maybe is a precaution so they can't identify exactly what chimp it is, maybe. Right. But even just the visual of this dead baby chimp, even though you can't see the body itself, just falling into the water, the implications of it are so goddamn dark. So it cuts back to the scientists, and Branton is just like oh, the shriek of emotion. And then Zira crawls over to her dead husband and lies on top of him to die herself, and they let her die as the camera goes to any real shot. It's so dark.
I mean, is this the darkest of the three endings? Like,
it may be, I mean, it's definitely dark. I mean, both of them are darker on the first. I mean, the first one's obviously a dark twist, but it's not a dark ending to the story necessarily. Whereas the second one ends with the destruction of the entire planet and our main characters dying. But this feels even crueler because, first of all, you've got a baby involved, and then just these are the two characters who throughout the three movies we've grown to really like and we've been rooting for, and to watch her crawl so she can just like hold her dead husband as she dies herself after she's
G-rated.
I know. After she's rolled over her dead, well, not her dead baby, but a dead baby chimp.
What we think is the dead baby, yeah.
The reveal, of course, at the end is that we go to the circus for our final little scene, and just in case you didn't get it, they have Ricardo Montalban actually sort of say, "Oh, you're smart, just like your parents," as they're packing
and
up.
he's wearing the necklace.
Yes. So.
I do love this moment. The one thing that makes me like snicker a little bit is just that the chimp, the baby chimp, is saying "mama" over and over again, but in order for him to say it over and over again without computer graphics, they just reverse the shot over and over again, so you can see the camera like zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out as it rewinds.
It's basically a GIF playing on a loop is essentially what it is.
Yeah, a little cheesy, but you know, it's a good effect. It's a good reveal. Yes. And it sets up our next film.
Truth is this death of these two characters of Zira and Cornelius, it makes me want to root for the kid to basically kill all the humans in the next movie. It's like, yeah, F them all.
Isn't that the point of the Planet of the Apes reboot also?
No, that's, I think because the new trilogy is far more nuanced. It's far more layered with its subtext, and it's.
So like, you want this kid to grow up to be Koba?
The three new movies are basically like various levels of masterpiece.
We'll talk about them, but
this is
you'll get no arguments from me.
This is kind of schlocky sequel that has moments of like what, but it's mostly a schlocky, just fun sequel. Yes. And Tara's not fighting me, so I think I must yes. So someday someone's going to ask me, do you talk about movies on a podcast? And I'll say, when Tara lets me.
Yeah, you do most of the talking.
When our fish overlords rule up and the fish replace the people, and the planet of the salmon.
We probably deserve it.
We probably do. Although I don't think I've ever eaten salmon myself, funnily enough, but I've eaten plenty of other fish. So I mean, they'll do it for their haddock brothers. Like, you ate our haddock brothers. We will kill you, humans.
Now you must die.
All right. So
awfully close to a Twilight Zone episode.
Or is this going to be one lone salmon, simply called the Salmonator? Sorry. Okay.
Now I hate it.
Do you know what? I only thought of that so quick because there's an actor called Colin Salmon who I refer to as the Salmonator. So I thought I'm getting my Salmonator line in here somehow, some way. So, thank you. All right. Well, I mean that's basically the movie. Yeah, I mean it's an enjoyable time. It's kind of one of these things where it's not up to the standard of the first one, of course. Neither was the second. I think it bizarrely it gets away from pretty much all the problems the second one had, but it has all of its own problems instead. It fixes obviously just doing the same thing for the most part, but it does have all these other things like you say contrivances, and the character to move things forward. It feels a bit cheaper. Some stuff just feels a little off, and the weird retcon that's all explained when it's only a retcon because he knows about it. Like, see if we saw the next movie that shows this is how it happened, and the apes in the future just didn't know about it, it would all click together perfectly.
It is kind of interesting, the element that they've added by making Cornelius and Zira their own ancestors, and the only reason that apes take over is because humans went to the future in the first place and then brought them back, and now now we have intelligent apes because it's like it's a closed loop, you know, of time travel. Like the only reason is it's Terminator logic.
It's kind of Terminator-esque, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a fun spin on it when you think about it, but at the same time, I think the first movie is just so masterfully done, and it's just such a perfect like science fiction allegory movie, everything you want from a classic sci-fi.
I would say what we're actually describing here is way more like the TV show Dark, and I'm bringing it up because when we did our top 10 time travel movies and we were mentioning TV shows at the end, somehow I forgot to talk about Dark, and I got shit for it at the comments because it's the most time travel thing that ever time traveled. So German and Netflix original Dark is like a thesis, a 3-season thesis on time travel and loops and all that kind of thing. So do check it out.
Yeah, that was a very, very important interruption.
I think
glad
it was.
You did it.
I'm glad I did it too, but please continue.
Right. So yeah, it's a closed loop of time travel, which I think is an interesting little thing to add on to it. But it does each sequel, because it keeps retconning what happened before, it does sort of diminish the first movie and its perfectness in my mind, which is unfortunate. But I still enjoy all of these sequels for their own quirkiness and what they bring. I think this movie probably had the most challenge going into it. Like, how do you make a sequel to a film where you blew up the planet when it's called the Planet of the Apes? But I think they do a fun enough job with some, you know, maybe it could have used another rewrite or so, but they do a good enough job of making it fun and interesting and thought-provoking.
Also mentioned, just in case someone in the comments says to tell us, yes, we realise that the police captain from Blade Runner has also got a small role in this as too.
Yes, easy to recognize his voice.
Yes, Emmett Walsh.
Yeah.
Yes, is the actor in question. Yeah, he's got a distinct voice in the way he speaks.
And the guy who played like the judge is also Mr. Griswold in Christmas Vacation. Mr. Grandfather Griswold.
Cool. Also, Walsh was also in Critters, which I'll be honest, I think I know him from that more than I do Blade Runner. But so yes, make of that which you will. Yeah, bit schlocky, bit quirky. It's got its problems, but it's very watchable. And if you're doing a little franchise watch, it's not one that you're going to be mad you spend time on, I don't think.
No.
But it's not the tour de force that the new films are. And I'm building these new ones up a lot, but when we get to those 3 new ones, just be prepared, because we'll be going to town on those 3.
We do love them.
So, but that has been Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Tara, it's time to rate the film.
As much as this movie is kind of corny and sort of diminishes the statements of the first film, and I still really enjoy watching this movie. I think it is a lot of fun, and I do think it has enough of thought-provoking themes that they've added into it, and I do actually really like this film a lot. And I don't remember the next 2 very well, but I do remember that I like this one the most for the sequels, and so I'm going to rate it a 7.5.
Which notably does not count the remake from 2001.
No, those are reboots, not sequels.
Well, that's just the
remake. You mean the Burton one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Rise was 2011. Come on.
Yeah.
Yes, the Tim Burton one, which I'm not looking forward to that one. I hate that we have to get. Which is the
one we will skip.
No, we're not skipping. I hate that we have to go through that to get to the good ones. I really, it hurts me.
Maybe the patrons voted for the Planet of the Apes, so we got to deliver.
They did. I have a real love-hate relationship with the patrons, you know that? On the one hand, they make me watch all this crap, but on the other hand, they give me money. So, I mean, you know, it's a real... it's a real catch-22.
Plus, they give you money because they love you.
Well, they're only human. I mean... I love you, patrons. I do. I've been facetious. I love you, patrons. I love all viewers. Everyone who kicks that like button. Smash that like button.
Gross.
Like a chimpanzee. Like a chimpanzee who's angry that his wife was injected by a sedative. Because I handed him.
Okay. You made it work.
Thank you. So, Yeah, what am I rating it? I'm probably going to go about a point lower and say 6.5. It's fun. It's got some things I like about it. It's very watchable, but it's one of these things where I don't necessarily feel the need to watch the sequels with this franchise. I like the original and I like the new trilogy. This isn't like other franchises where like every time I'm watching, I'm like, no, I'm watching every single one. You know, it's just not.
I like this franchise.
It's not Friday the 13th for me. Obviously, you shut your mouth. Obviously, it's not like, I'm not saying obviously the peaks of Planet of the Apes are much higher than the peaks of Friday the 13th because that's just a dumb slasher series, but you know what I mean. It's like, you know, there's a much bigger dip because it's like, oh, now we're down here.
I find something in all the sequels that I enjoy. I think they just come out in a time where I just enjoy watching those films. I don't know.
Well, we'll wait and see. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I liked Beneath the Planet of the Apes too.
I found positives in it. I think I said some nice things about it last time. I think I said it was just an interesting film.
Mm-hmm.
That's worth something.
Spends a lot of the lore.
Yes. All right, there you go. All right, so I've made it this far in the review. Put the phrase "I loathe bananas" in the comments, whether or not it's true or not. I mean, I enjoy a banana myself, but if you do or don't, put "I loathe bananas" in the comments. I'm going to make Tara do her pose for the thumbnail, so here we go. You don't have to lean back; you're already not cut off.
My camera's
go.
a bit higher this time.
3, 2, 1, pose.
Generic smile.
Yeah, you had nothing for that one, did you? Like, there was no gimmicky thing, no prop or
No. Sorry.
just okay. All right. Well, there you go. You don't have any like those like little building block things that Zero had in the movie lying around that you can sort of be like, oh, put them together. Oh no. Nah. Oh well. I tried, folks.
I could bust out some Legos, maybe. Build a tiny stair.
Please don't. All right. So there you go. That is Escape from Planet of the Apes. So hopefully you enjoyed our thoughts on it. Please do let us know in the comments what you think. Please do liking is super important. It's the free way to support us. I also mentioned Patreon earlier if you want to give us financial support over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But a like on YouTube is super important and helps more people find us. You know, lets the algorithm know to pimp us out a little bit, and we always like when that happens a bit more. So please do. And if we get enough likes on this video, maybe next time Tara's going to say smash that like button unironically at the end. And she's going to give it her all.
But I really do hope that you like the video. I'm so torn.
So please do that. Tara, would you like to promote any other content that MailFuzz TV have?
Well, guess what? We have a new series that we're reviewing. It is classic science fiction. It is Babylon 5, a show that I really don't know much about. I've seen some of season 1 and didn't continue it. But now I will be reviewing it episode by episode with Peter, who I think loves the show. So we'll check it out together.
Well, I've seen a lot of it, but I've liked a lot of what I've seen so far. And we're going to have some fun going through it. And, you know.
Hopefully figure out what's the deal with that guy's hair.
Lando.
Yes.
Or Londo. Yeah, Londo. Yes, and also maybe see where Star Trek stole some of its best ideas from. So,
how dare you? I do remember there being a lot of similarities between what I saw in season 1 and Deep Space Nine. There's even like a main character that has the same name.
I'm pretty sure like they tried legal action because Babylon 5 was first. Deep Space Nine it came after. If I say JMS even like I don't know if he consulted on possibly writing for Star Trek, and then it's kind of funny how all of a sudden I don't know. I could be wrong. I might be making up things.
It might be tough for me because Deep Space Nine is my favorite Star Trek series.
If you're gonna steal from the best, I guess.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay, look, I promise. See, this is the advantage you have is that when we do this show, is I've not seen Deep Space Nine yet, so I can't point out all the things that could be stolen because I don't know what's in Deep Space Nine yet.
Okay. Well,
Right.
I'll be happy to point it out.
You could remain silent, and then when I do eventually watch Deep Space Nine, I'm going to look back and go, damn it, I could have been chastising Star Trek left and right. I'm sure it's only the premise. I'm sure by the time Deep Space Nine actually gets good, because I hear it gets really good to like season 4, I'm sure by the time it gets there, it's doing all its own things.
I think by the end of season 1, it starts to get pretty good.
Sure. I've heard season 4, but you love Star Trek, so you obviously agree to defend it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone says when the goatee happens or when Worf shows up, which is season 4, but I mean, there's good stuff before then too. Even season 1 had some good episodes, which is rare for Star Trek.
Yes, and just to round out this little bit of a tangent before we wrap up here, everyone's hoping that Michael's new haircut in the new Discovery season is going to be Discovery's version of the Riker beard, the Cisco beard / shaved head.
She doesn't have a haircut, she has hair extensions.
Haircut just means hairstyle. It's used interchangeably. I'm sorry. Yes, it's not literally a cut. I agree. It's grown out or has been extended with the hair and makeup department doing their wizardry.
I don't really care what her hair is, but I'm excited for season 3 to be coming back. So,
Not do I. It's an arbitrary thing, but it's just because Star Trek has this thing where it got good when these things happen to other characters. So the sort of like.
Well, the Klingons grew hair last season, so that season was pretty good. But I like season 1. Anyway, watch
better.
Babylon 5 with us.
Yes. Coming soon. In fact, it may be later this week when this goes out, or it may be next week, but it's soon, very soon. The first one will be going out, so look forward to that. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. Guys on Twitter at the Ace Podcast or at mailed_fuzz for general Mail Fuzz channel updates. But that is us, so thank you once again. We'll see you next time. Keep watching science fiction and computer at Salsa.
I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee.